Hi everyone, it's Dr. Ramani. Welcome back to this YouTube channel on narcissism and healing from narcissistic relationships. Today we're going to take on a kind of a specific topic of student loans and how that relates to a person who might have narcissistic parents. Whoever thought that these two concepts would be linked to each other? But again, let me put it out there as a question. How many of you have narcissistic parents or parent and attempted to get a student loan? And did that get twisted? Did you have the experience that your narcissistic parents wouldn't give you the essential documentation you needed to make the application? That you could not apply for the loan and then go to school for whatever it was you wanted or where you wanted to go to school? And hey, banks and federal student loan programs, I doubt you're listening to this video, but if you are, pay attention because this is an issue. So just as an FYI, if you're under 24, you're not married, don't have kids, or aren't in graduate school, you are not considered an independent student, and you would need parental tax returns to file for federal financial aid. If you're under 24 and don't have those other things, then you are considered what's called a dependent student. And to get a waiver to be considered an independent student, you need documentation that says, amongst other things, you're from an abusive home. Now you can imagine that's going to be pretty damn near impossible in many cases of narcissistic abuse, since emotional abuse and manipulation are almost never recognized, and even the standard of coercive control may be too high, and it's not going to be able to be applied in this case because it's just part of the family law code, right? So for many survivors of parental narcissistic abuse, there just may not be permissible exemplars of abuse, so they can't get that waiver. So here we are, it's fall. Students are starting school and eye-watering tuition bills are coming in, even at public institutions. No kid can pay these bills by themselves. Yeah, maybe at a community college, maybe some state colleges, but it's really hard. Scholarships are really, really rare unless you can throw a ball. So many people who choose to go to college cobble together savings, loans, financial aid, whatever it takes. Well, we know that the narcissistic parent does not have their children's best interests at heart unless by luck and coincidence that child's best interests align with the parent's interests. So, and while this may not be a regular occurrence, if it's your story, I don't want you to feel alone with it. That's what inspired me to make this video. So let's say you have a narcissistic parent who either devalues you and believes you will amount to nothing and drills into you this idea that you're not enough, or you are the scapegoat and the narcissistic parent thinks that the resources of the family or of them would be better spent on the golden child, right? Or it could be that your parents were just plain fiscally irresponsible and couldn't or wouldn't help you out because of their own selfishness and poor planning. Or they say, I'm only going to help you out if you go exactly to the school I want and study the thing I tell you to study. But sometimes a parent is so punitive for whatever their vindictive reason. Maybe they're just oppositional. Maybe they're seeking vengeance for something else. Maybe they're trying to make it so you can't leave home and can keep helping them with whatever it is they need help with, or because they believe that you shouldn't move away, because it's a control thing. Whatever egocentric reason it is, they decide to not hand over the tax returns. And again, if you are a typical undergraduate and under 24, you will not be able to easily apply for federal loans because you're not going to really roll up to the Department of Education with this dependency override, my parents are abusive, or you're not going to fill out the financial aid form saying, I don't have that information. And if your parents aren't dead, the whole thing becomes really complicated. There's no path forward. Listen, this video isn't meant to be a financial aid guide. Frankly, I don't know what the hell you're supposed to do if you're in this situation. I do know there are other grants in different states for low-income students, but even those require parental income information. But for middle-class students with narcissistic parents who will not cooperate, forget about it. I, again, don't have a fix for you. I just want to open eyes and validate people's experiences, because I've seen a lot of people have their hearts be broken by this. I've run into this situation with folks in my clinical practice. I've seen it as a faculty member, and it's real. And it's a great example of the nuanced ways that narcissistic abuse ruins lives, but the unwillingness of systems to recognize the harm and the damage caused by this. No, college is not the be-all, end-all for everyone, but even technical training, like an electrician or a beautician's license or a barber's license, an airplane mechanic, all of that training costs money too, folks. College or some form of tuition-based training is the only path forward for many people's goals. And after enduring a childhood with a narcissistic parent, to have the one path out to freedom and a career, and maybe even the ability to move out and move away, to have that blocked because of paperwork that a narcissistic parent won't release, that can be devastating. No other systems in our world, family courts, some domestic violence programs, human resource departments, workplace advocates, law enforcement, even healthcare, have caught up and integrated what we know about narcissistic abuse and what it does. So I don't expect the feds and other entities that oversee federal student aid are going to step up either. The number of times that I have witnessed mediators, judges, workplace management types, even student counselors say, I want you all to go and figure it out and then come back to me. I want to scream. I want to tell them, this person has been trying to reason with this narcissistic person for years now. Their heart and soul have been broken. The narcissistic behavior is right in front of you if you could see it. And you are telling them to go figure it out on their own. If they could have figured it out on their own, they would have done so years ago. The student loan system is just one more system where making decisions that are contingent on wresting information away from controlling and punitive parents only harms the student. As I said, I don't know the fix for this. Perhaps financial aid counselors need to get more savvy, or students need to be given a way to be able to provide access to this information if they have some information about their parents without needing the parents' cooperation. Or the student has to understand that if they apply for the loan themselves, they are responsible, not the parents, much like if the student took out a credit card. And I understand the system may be gamed by some people, but I still think far more people will be protected, and the few that game it, I just think that's an opportunity cost. Until we have more narcissism-tolerant systems that could use this overhaul, like the student loan system, sadly, the people with healthy personalities will keep bearing the burden and having their aspirations cut just because of potentially, in this case, difficult parents. Curious if this ever happened to you. I know it's a pretty sort of narrow band of folks this may have happened to, but anytime we need paperwork from a narcissist, I'm using student loans as an example, but it could be any number of other things. When you need paperwork from them, I think it's often the oppositionality and their need for control. They'll often not cooperate, and it can take something that's quite simple, turn it into a Byzantine task. We see this in co-parenting situations too. But when it comes to student loans, it's actually really galling because it can actually stop a kid who's finally found a path away from an emotionally abusive sort of family of origin and stop that path forward simply because one piece of information can't be released. Thanks again.